You might ask yourself sometimes, like, what is my truth? What is it that I stand for? Who am I as a leader, as a spouse? Who are we in our lives? How we show up. Sometimes we show up even as different people, depending on the situation, right? Depending on the context, depending on the environment. Who are we around? And so for a long time in my life, I felt like a lot of how I showed up was incredibly contextual. Did I feel like the people who I was surrounding myself with truly understood me? And did it feel safe for me then to let myself come out? And I think it's important to think about that when it comes to our own leadership, because sometimes when we are leading our teams or we're leading an initiative or we're rising up in our role and now we have to step up into, executive leadership, executive conversations, strategic planning and decision making at an organizational level, that's when that imposter syndrome starts to come in and that self-doubt and all of the different things that we're thinking about that second guess who we are because we're not seeing ourselves in that light. And we might even think that we need to be somebody else. We have to be someone else who might be more entitled to be in that type of a role or have a specific type of leadership presence that we are aware of. I have so many clients who ask me this question, men and women who talk to me about this because we have in our mind this predefined idea of who is a leader. And I would challenge you and say, you are a leader. I am a leader. We all are leaders when we decide to be. And when you decide that you're a leader, when you decide that you have something to share and something valuable and important, that is you stepping into your leadership. That is you owning you, your ideas and what it is that you bring fully. I know when I was in my career, uh, sometimes I created little waves, right? I've talked about that a little bit with things that I did. I didn't always follow the rules. And for me at that time, it made sense because I knew that if I completely followed the rules, the ideas that I had would never see the light of day. It wasn't because I thought it was great. It wasn't because I felt incredibly important. It was because the ideas that I had felt important and I wanted them to come into fruition. I wanted to see how we could turn the organization that I was in into something great. I wanted to be a part of something great. I wanted to be doing something that felt meaningful and valuable and worthwhile of my time. We spend so much time in our roles, in our occupations, in our careers. We spend more time working than we do not working. And so I wanted it to matter and be valuable and add up to something so that at the end of the day, it felt like I was a part of something and I was accomplishing something great. And so I would write down different ideas and I would go to top people and start sharing them. And I had this kind of book of ideas that I would go and I would sit down with the COO or the CTO. Mind you, I wasn't even a manager at this time. I was an engineer. And I would ask to sit with them and I would share what I was thinking about and how we could start driving change within the organization. And that is what took me from going to being an engineer to moving into manager, lead, manager, director. And even then, before all of that, being asked to go sit at the seat of the table with the owner and with the C-suite level in strategic planning, not because of my title, but because of my ideas. We have to start to look within ourselves and really recognize what we bring. What is our value? Sometimes we're focused on what we're not. Not enough of this, I'm not enough of this. All of the shoulds and the judgments and the interpretations of our own self as it pertains to comparing ourselves to other individuals, even comparing ourselves to who we used to be, who we were in high school, who we were as children, who we were in our early 20s, when we were making a ton of mistakes, trying to figure out who we were in this world and what we were going to go and do. That's a part of us. It's not us now. And so when we're showing up as different people, are we doing it because we feel like that's the expectation of those individuals for how we show up? Are they ready for the me that is now? Are they ready to know me now and not me before? Is my team ready to see me as me and not someone else? Do I have to have all of the answers? Or can I lean into my team in a greater way? Can I ask questions out of curiosity? Can I wonder, how do we go out and solve these problems? And when I would come with these ideas to my top leadership, it wasn't because I had it all figured out. It was very high level, some of them. Then we could talk to the team. Then we could lean in. Then we can start to problem solve and strategize. How do we break this down? When we're talking about ourselves and having a purpose and knowing our truth and having a vision, it is very similar to a company, corporation having a vision, a mission, a purpose. They have to stand for something. They are doing something. They are creating something. They wouldn't be in business otherwise. We are the same. What are we doing? Why are we here? Why does this matter to us? Why do we show up every day? If it's only for a paycheck, which I would challenge, that's most often not the case, but if it is, why? Why are we then in this role? Why are we not doing something else? Owning your truth is asking questions of yourself so that you can better see who you truly are, what your blind spots are, where are those gaps of knowledge of you and how you show up. Why do we do certain things? Oftentimes there's this inner turmoil, inner conflict that's happening all under the surface as we're battling, who do I allow to come out right now? The little monster inside of us. We can choose who that monster is. It could be a cute and cuddly and funny little monster, and it can come out and it can become amazing and beautiful. But when we shut it out, we don't allow it to come out and surface, that cute little cuddly little monster inside of us can become angry and mean and frustrated and loud, because now we are a walking contradiction of who we are. We are not seeing our true potential, our true value. And in effect, we resent ourselves. We resent who we've become and the fact that we are too afraid to be genuine, to be authentic, to be willing to be disliked, to be willing to fall on our face. We place so much around our exterior and we forget to look at our interior. But leadership is all about the interior, because that's what moves mountains. That's what creates teams that can be truly innovative. That's where ideas start to spark and come alive. That's where you can go and have the audacity to go to a higher level and say, hey, I have these ideas, or to go and reach out to someone you've never met online and say, hey, would you be willing to sit down and talk with me for 15 minutes? That's where gumption comes from, in here. And if we're so busy trying to be something else, ignoring who we truly are, pretending or worrying about all that we're not going to know how do we refine the person that we are. See, authenticity isn't about just being whoever you are, whenever you want, and acting in, out of accordance. It's knowing who you are and refining who you are, honing that, leveraging those natural talents, those strengths, those gifts that you bring forth, and only you can fully understand because of the life that you have led. I knew as a leader, I wasn't going to be boisterous. I wasn't going to be able to compete with the people that I was working with at the top. I had to find my way. I had to use my presence powerfully and quietly, not because I needed to be quiet, not because I was told to be quiet, because that's who I was and that's who I am. I can be loud if I need to be, and I had to learn to hone that voice too. But I also had to learn to hone my presence so that regardless of how loud I was still heard, I was still listened to, I was still valued. They called upon me and my insights. I didn't need to be the loudest in the room. And I really want you to lean in and think about that for yourself. Who are you when you're showing up in these different places, and how can you be steadfast in your core, in your alignment of yourself, and own it and have the quiet calm, the confidence, the knowledge, and the wisdom to carry forward in such a way. If we get too wrapped up in all of this other nonsense that's happening around us sometimes, we aren't able to take the time to look inward. We're not able to take the time to do the deeper work. Sometimes we have to be willing to do that deeper work, and it means ignoring the things that don't truly matter. We have to use our energy wisely because we can decide, we can get dragged into all kinds of different things, right? Leaders are busier now more than ever, I would say. We have more meetings. I had a client the other day. How am I supposed to do 14 meetings in a day and, lead? It's a great question. Then we can strategize on that. But if we're also allowing ourselves to get wrapped up in different types of things, are we focusing on the right things? Are we influencing in the right ways? Are we having the right conversations? Do we have our eyes set on the right things? The question that was asked really for me was not just all of the meetings, how do I use my time efficiently and effectively? And my question was, how do you determine what's a priority? Do you have to attend every single meeting? How are those meetings reaching to the long goal? How are the conversations that you're having going towards that bigger vision? How are they furthering you and your team forward? Think deliberately about who you are, what you do, how you show up, so that when you're walking away, you're leaving an impact because your presence spoke so loudly. This is your truth. This is what needs to come out and shine. And when you can do this, imagine what you're capable of doing. Imagine how you can show up for your team, for yourself, for your organization, within your industry. Imagine what you're willing to do at this point when you just get over all of those fears and all of those negative thoughts that start to consume us and prevent us from really stepping out and being who we are intended to be. There's always going to be a reason of why we can't, but you always can. You always can go and do the scary thing. We see it all the time. So go do it and be you and boldly proclaim who you are, regardless of what others think. If they think you're ridiculous, so what? I pissed people off in my career because they didn't understand why I was getting promoted. They didn't see how, they couldn't make the connection of one to one. Jessica doesn't follow the rules. In some cases, when I followed the rules, nothing happened. Change didn't happen. The same types of things happened. The people above me weren't courageous enough to share some of the ideas that I had. It wasn't because I was trying to overstep them or become more important than them. It was because they wouldn't share it because they were too afraid themselves. And then we went along that journey together. Who are you bringing on your journey? Is it your team? Is it your family? Who is it? Are you proud of who you are? It's hard to step out boldly and proclaim who you are if you aren't even willing to tell yourself. You need to start with telling yourself, this is who I am. This is how I show up. This is what I bring. This is what I excel in doing. And you need to own it. You can be humble about it, but you can own it. And until you're willing to do that, it's going to be really hard to show up any other way or tell other people what it is that you do well, because you're not willing to say it even to yourself. Every day, tell yourself what it is that you do well, what it is that you bring. You are important. You can be important, and so can someone else. It doesn't mean that you're more important, but don't make yourself small to help other people's lack of confidence or egos. Don't play small. Just be you. Just allow yourself to shine. Be warm and empathetic and caring. Be that walking contradiction of bold prowess and humility. You can do all of that. It's so important that we can recognize and honor who we are, because that is the thing that will help to carry you through to the next level. Otherwise, you're going to continue to wonder, why? Why should I? Your brain is going to continually ask you, why would you even bother? So if you feel and you're constantly telling yourself negative things, then you're not going to be motivated to go and do hard things and overcome things if you don't have a reason. Give yourself the reason. Why? What does it bring you? What does it bring your family? What does it bring your legacy? What do you want to be a part of? What kind of meaning and purpose do you want to be a part of? What kind of work spurs you on, excites you, and drives you forward? That's what you're doing all of this for. Yes, money and monetary, goals are great. They are a means to, how we live. But it's not the only thing that we're working for or pursuing our careers for or rising up or leading our teams or passionate. So think about those things. Let that be your driving force. It's not all only about you, but you have to get to know you and like you and love yourself in order for you to be able to blossom and bloom into the person and into the leader that you are intended to become. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your ideas, what comes up for you. If it feels obvious, great. It's not easy. I'm not going to say it is. It does take work. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it when you can decide and you can wake up and you can be who you want, where you're not impacted by everything that's happening around you. It's not happening to you. It's just there and you are you. It's a very empowering place to be. Let me know in the comments, reach out to me in the DMs. I'd love to hear what's coming up for you. How does this impact you? And How do you see yourself stepping into your leadership in an even greater way?